Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Hi, Betsy. Hi, Donna.
Hey, Christine, how's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi, Christine. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi, Betsy.
So while we wait for everybody to join, I'll tell you a funny little coincidental thing. 45 years ago, my younger sister and I shared a hospital room. We had our four wisdom teeth, our respective four wisdom teeth removed. And this week, each of us have had our 18th molar removed. We are
Oh my
joined.
gosh.
We are joined at the jaw. We both cracked. I mean, totally separate. She's in Georgia. I'm here. We our molar and both of them had to be removed this week and would have been removed on the same day, but she had an adverse reaction to pain meds and had to wait 2 days. The weirdest thing ever. Which, by the way, I will tell you is a great weight loss plan because you do not want to eat when you have a broken tooth.
Oh, no.
Sorry to hear that.
It's
Hi,
just-
everybody.
and
Hi,
it's
Ann.
just so funny, you know.
Hey, Cherise.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Donna.
Ann, any news on your internet?
Oh my God. You don't even want to get me started, Christine. They're supposed to come tomorrow.
What's
I don't have my landline. They came on the 27th and claimed to have fixed it, and within 24 hours the whole thing went down, and then it added my landline. So then I didn't have a landline. I didn't have internet. So I'm hobbling along on a very low, I have 5 megabytes of connectivity. So you can't see me and hear me. I can only do one or the other, but it's just been crazy. And I called immediately and to see if they could come, and said, nope, the earliest we have, and this was on August 28th, is September 10th.
Wow.
I have already not had internet for almost 3 weeks. So now we're going on a full month because this started on August 13th.
So this is CenturyLink.
Oh yeah.
Have you
Donna
tried-
knows all about it.
Have you tried Beam? I'm not.
I don't have a
advocating
line of
for one
sight.
company.
I don't, I'm
Sorry.
low and I have way too many trees. So I had tried that before CenturyLink, but it is, I wrote to the Virginia SEC yesterday because I was just finally at my wit's end.
Mm.
Let's see. So I know Monty said he was going to join. He was going to have to drop off. There's Jesse. Okay.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Jesse.
And you saw that Liz is not feeling well and will not be here.
Yes. And then also Cherise is going to have to pop off. Christine, are you taking notes, the minutes today?
Yeah, I can do that.
I can do it, Christine, if you'd like me to. I started.
Did you?
You're probably already doing it also.
Well, Peggy, we had discussed that maybe we could do that. We could go back and forth. So
Yeah. Okay. So do you want to go this time?
sure.
You do it this week, this month, and I'll do it next month.
Sounds great.
Great, awesome. So I think we're going to get started because I think we have 12 panelists and we have, oh, hey, Sage. I see you there as an attendee. So I invited Sage Bradburn. She's checking out. She's interested potentially in becoming a SWAAC member. I also invited Marion Carter. She couldn't make it today. So, all right, so let's get started. I'm just going to read off the top of the agenda and then I can share in a second. So this meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with ordinance number 20-A14, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. The committee members who are electronically present at this meeting include Ann Johnson, Christine Hirsch-Putnam, Peggy Gilgis, Jesse Warren, Monty Harris, Okay, and we are missing Margaret and Navarre, it looks like right now. The opportunities for the public to access the electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County website, on the Board of Supervisors homepage, and on the Albemarle County calendar. So thanks, everybody. We can get going. Let me pull up the agenda.
And I just wanted to say that one of the UVA students who works at the Charlottesville City Market for their composting she has class, but she's hoping to attend later.
Oh, good. That would be
Yeah,
great.
her name's Alana.
Okay. Can you all see my screen? Because I am kind of.
No,
Yes.
now we can.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so I apologize for sending things out late. It's been a process getting anything done lately. But I hope you guys had a chance to review it. Thank you very much, Christine, for taking great minutes last month. If I would like to hear a motion to approve the August minutes.
I approve the August minutes.
Second.
Can we get a second for that?
Monty seconded.
Okay. Anybody opposes? Let's assume they are approved then. Thanks, everyone. I also would just like to thank Jesse and Christine especially, who drafted the Board of Supervisors report and the template and made it easy for me to finish, and also then added some revisions for last time. We have submitted that. Lance, I think everything is in order as far as I know. Do you know if EJ has said we're good?
I know that she submitted it to whom she needed to submit it to. So I don't know what the process is beyond that, but
I believe Claudette mentioned that it had been received.
Okay. Let me just check my participant list real quick. Oh, Terry's on. There she is. Sorry about that. Okay, so thanks everybody for your help on getting that done. And despite COVID, I have to say, we did quite a bit, in 2020. Terry and I have still not gotten together on doing an article on illegal dumping. So that is still outstanding. Phil, you were going to reach out to Atlas EPS recyclers in Martinsville. Did you have a chance to do that?
Sorry, I didn't have a chance to find my unmute button. No. I would love to say there was a good reason for that, but I didn't. I just didn't do it because I forgot all about it. I will write a list.
Okay, no problem. I'll just put Penny in that. Thanks, Phil.
Exactly.
So Navarre, and I think this was going to complete the quick reference guide and send it out.
He did. He only sent it to 4 of us, though. I think Lance and Anne and me and maybe Elizabeth.
Yeah, and we can send that out to everyone. It's very comprehensive.
Yes.
Very comprehensive. He did a terrific job. So, hey, Navarre, welcome. We can certainly share that with everybody. This is just a very detailed list of where community members can recycle different types of things, outside of sort of your traditional packaging items. So thank you, Navarre, for doing that. Monty, you were going to contact the ABC folks about any state bagging requirements. I feel like you had done that.
Yeah, I've left a couple messages for their compliance department. I can't get anybody live except the security guy at the front desk. So I'll stay on them. I'll try to figure out some emails to press them, but in progress.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Okay, and EJ had noted she would share the GBV case studies once they've been finalized. Lance, is there any update on that?
I'm afraid we've had to push off our work on that for a little while. The reason EJ is not here today is because she's been pulled into the executive's office to work with them and HR and IT around all of the policies and logistics, the many logistics of the recent county executive order requiring that all employees either be vaccinated or be tested on a weekly basis. So she's been working 50 to 60-hour weeks since that was announced, and not on Fez stuff, unfortunately. So we're
Okay.
behind the curve. I have did have the opportunity to get the county attorney, Greg Kantner, up to speed on where we are in our part of that process as he starts to plan out his calendar for ordinance updates for the next 6 months or so.
All right, great. Oh, I'm just so glad to hear that's moving a little bit. Well, give EJ our best. And that sounds like
If I see her, I will.
okay. All right. So then we had this other one, Monty, you were gonna reach out to Scott DeFife to see if we could get an introduction to some of the local glass guys.
Yeah, so this one is good news. We made a lot of progress. So I did connect with Scott, but it actually happened after I'd already finally heard back from OI. So Phil and I have had a couple of calls. Well, I guess maybe me one call and Phil and I one call with OI, which is what Owens, Illinois goes by now. They've got a big initiative to grow their Virginia glass recycling.
Mhm.
So we've got an ongoing conversation there where Phil's provided some data around the kind of what the tonnage would be. They're going to come back with some potential solutions. We've also got a meeting scheduled, virtual meeting with the Nelson County people to talk about potentially consolidating with some of their glass recycling.
Oh, that's great. Monty, who did you talk to? Was it OI or ARDA? Who?
OI. So I got to a guy named a really senior guy who's their VP of
I know him.
environment. What is it? Jim Nordemeyer.
Yeah, Jim Nordenmeyer.
Yeah, and so he looped in several people on his team, including a person in charge of, he's the VP of global sustainability for OI.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was kind of our point, and then he's looped in somebody in charge of community relations, and then somebody in charge of the state of Virginia.
Oh, cool. Oh, I'd love to know who the state of Virginia person is. That's great. Oh, awesome. Great work. Thank you. Jesse, next point is you were going to find a new contact at Green Corner Consulting to talk about Nelson County and glass recycling, I guess. Did that happen?
Sorry, too many mutes. Green Corner Consulting is not active at the moment. We're trying to figure out who's working on projects like that and tracking them down. The Nelson County update is what Monty just shared.
Okay. All right. All right. So we'll just say this is sort of complete. Okay. Christine and Terry, you guys were gonna connect to talk about a blog about what happens to our curbside recycling. Any update on that?
We did connect, and I'm going to work on updating that blog
Okay.
with that information around haulers and curbside recycling and what's getting picked up.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Look forward to seeing that. That I will say is one of the most common questions. I get it all the time, and and increasingly coming up in conversations. I went to a meeting the other day. It was an appointment actually, and the person asked me, what happens to our recycling? So it's one that I think we really need to focus on answering for folks. So we had our first Plastic Prevention Advisory Council meeting a couple weeks ago. It was the decision right now in the state is either you have an in-person meeting or virtual meetings, but they don't provide access to in-person meetings. So there was no link for that, which it was a shame. It was a great meeting. There were some really good presentations there. So I apologize for that. We are trying to get them to allow remote access to in-person meetings so that people from across the state can listen to this conversation. There were several chapters of the Sierra Club. Katie Register was there. She's from, why can't I think of Longwood College. She does a lot on litter, measuring litter. There was somebody who presented from, it was either Norfolk, Amy Gray, I'm trying to remember, from Newport News, I think. And she talked about their enforcement program for litter and illegal dumping. It was really, really interesting, their use of cameras, and they have a dedicated special collections force that works on enforcement. The state presented, somebody from DEQ presented, and a very interesting particular fact shot out at me and a number of people, which is that in the state of Virginia, MRFs are not what we consider MRFs, where we sort recyclables, are considered a recycling facility. And as such, they don't have to be permitted. And they're not, because they're handling recyclables, they're not considered a waste facility. So they don't have to be permitted and they don't have to report. And, oh, I have an unstable. They're taking what the state considers waste. So when you look at the list of MRFs that the state has, they're scrap yards and, anybody who consider, what the state considers waste. So it was really interesting because that's pretty archaic language. And so they sort of ran us through some of the state definitions and structures and some of the things that you can see why there's some real, I think, challenges in Virginia. So our next meeting is coming up, which will be a major policy discussion about what will be the first round of policy recommendations to the state specifically for EPS and plastic bags. So that's we have a charge to deliver on those policy recommendations by November 1. After that time, more around plastic and circular economy issues and the policy and other recommendations, whether it's studies or whatever. At that time, the state does not have any data on total plastic waste generation. So we were asking, does the state have a handle on how much plastic waste there is? Because that is the name of our committee, and the answer was no. And they also have no data on how much plastic pollution enters the environment. There's essentially zero data. So some of the conversation around recommendations will undoubtedly deal with the level and quality of data across the state is so weak. So that would be my update on that. I want to thank Terry for introducing me to Sage Bradburn, who is on and checking us out. And then Liz was going to follow up on how we might have virtual meetings down the road, but I will follow up with her on that separately. So I will turn it over now to give us sort of the county report out.
Hello, everybody, officially. It's great to see you all. Sorry I was distracted early on by trying to let people into the room one at a time. It's than it looks.
We're challenging your IT skills.
Yeah. I'm a pretty advanced spreadsheeter, but apparently button clicking is not my strength. So the Southern Convenience Center, we hadn't really had much chance to talk about that for a few months now. We are at a stage where we are going to have two meetings about this project in the near term. And I'll start with the second one. The second one will be with the Planning Commission. That will be a sort of a formal presentation combined with staff in the Planning Department of Community Development. And I will have a presentation as well. And Phil will be there, as well as the engineers who are working with us on this project. And the purpose of the meeting is for the Planning Commission to listen to and take action on the Planning Department's recommendation for whether or not this project is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. I've learned more about the comprehensive plan and the legal mandates for comprehensive plans in the last 6 months than I've ever known. But it basically, our comprehensive plan states pretty clearly that government buildings and services and facilities should be focused in the development areas. So that's immediately around Charlottesville, primarily, as well as the Crozet and just in the Glenmore area. And that other than that, only select services can be provided outside of those areas, and that no parcel that hasn't been designated for a future use for a specific purpose in the rural areas is allowed to happen without going through this comprehensive plan review. So this was a step that we knew we would need to take back in the spring when the board was first discussing this, and the effort that went into the preparation and justification of the application was fairly significant, and I hope that we're successful. And I'm excited about that. So there will be an opportunity. I'll make sure that the information about the meeting time and slot on the agenda is shared with everybody. That will be, of course, a virtual meeting open to the public. So at this time, it looks like October 14th is the date that's going to the Planning Commission. And, of course, any support at the meeting or in advance of the meeting, once the packet of materials is available for viewing, would be much appreciated. I'm looking forward to seeing the Planning Department's staff report on, I guess, my application. So that should tell us a lot. One of the required steps in advance of the meeting is to conduct public engagement. So Phil's been working with us. I've had to switch gears from having EJ on that to working with one of our project managers who has got a good background in this to pull together a public meeting. We're looking for ways as well to make sure that the virtual public meeting, unfortunately, we still have to have virtual public meetings, that there may be other ways for people to see the materials that will be presented and react to them virtually. We've discussed even at the site putting up a sign and some flyers that describe what's coming, and then we do have to do a mailed notification in advance of the meeting to people who live within a certain radius. So that's developing pretty quickly. As of yesterday, I thought the Planning Commission meeting was going to be on the 28th of October, and just learned this morning that it's been bumped up sooner. So we're going to need to accelerate our plans really quickly, and we're working with our communications office and with the planning group and Phil to make sure we pull that off. So as soon as I have details on that, I'll absolutely make sure that everybody on the SWAAC and any other interested parties who you can think of who might appreciate it, gets the, a copy of the invitation with the ways that you can participate. And I'll send as well whatever materials we have. The engineers is working on a couple of displays for us, images and renderings to help facilitate the meeting. But we'll really be talking about the, what it looks like, what the rules are, that we expect it to operate by, hours, the types of services that will be provided there, talk about, really focus on to a pretty good extent, the tag a bag solid waste, household waste program, which I think is going to be just an enormous benefit to this part of the county. So that's my sort of scattered update probably on that. And I'm just happy to talk about that some more if anybody has any questions or ideas.
Lance, it looks like Terry has a question.
Go ahead, Terry.
I had a question actually before, sorry, Lance, with the plastic prevention group, and my question was just, do you know when there will be advocacy opportunities, or like, I know it's early days on that, but I just wanted to know if, like, because that meeting wasn't public, but it sounds like something, you've got a really tight timeline for recommendations. Is there going to be an advocacy opportunity, in this fall? It sounded like maybe. So just wanted to.
I think the upcoming meeting, Terry. So there were so the meeting was public. It just wasn't on Zoom for the public. So the public came and there were people who sat through it the whole time. So the advocacy opportunity is when these meetings happen. So the next one is coming up, I want to say September 28th. So that will be the next opportunity. And that's where, so the meeting is 6 hours, 5.5 hours or 5 hours is really the committee is going to be going through a process of talking about what recommendations are going to be made, specifically for plastic bags. So we already have state policy, that allows this tax, statewide tax. And the question is, what would we recommend additionally? If for EPS, there's a statewide EPS ban, so what other issues might we recommend? So I think that is, that's going to be the moment, is the September 28th meeting. After that, and then October is going to be working on the report, and the report is submitted in November. After this, when I think the door will open up to a broader conversation around recycling. So I'm going to share a presentation that was made about recycling in Virginia. So some of the things you can see, I think we're very hamstrung without really good data on what the problems are. So like when I asked the litter advocates about why is it happening, where is it happening and how much, they couldn't answer, because they're just measuring it on a beach and it's what they see on the beach, but they don't know where it came from. They don't know how much came. And, so there was sort of comments like, well, there are overflowing dumpsters in Alexandria. And it's like, well, has anybody ever measured this? Is it sidewalks? Is it storm drains? Is it roadways? And so that work has never been done in Virginia. So my recommendation is going to be a statewide litter study, so we can get a handle on this. So anyhow, sorry, Lance, I apparently missed that hand.
No problem.
Messages or things that we could be helpful with, that things that we know from this committee that would be helpful to be brought up in any public meeting, just wondering how we can support.
I think the folks who've been volunteering at McIntyre would probably be well suited to help answer questions that might come up about what's recyclable and really even from the extent that and what happens to the things that are brought there. But I'm interested in the perspective that that the folks who are working on the update on curbside recycling, have to say about the difference between, those who can access curbside recycling and what gets recycled versus what is brought to our SWA managed convenience centers, because I think I've made that point in a couple of different settings throughout the course of the development of this project. And I think it bears saying, and I'm sure people who could say it more fully than I can.
Great. And that's, I will, maybe if we, at the end, I will share some data that we did quite a lot of detailed research on communities across Virginia, the 10 largest cities, and then medium and smaller size and diverse, like geographically diverse, and documented exactly how collection happens and what types of plastics are collected or not. And I think the committee would find it really interesting, because part of that shows where drop-off and convenience centers play a big role. So I thought that might be interesting for you, Lance.
It'd be really helpful.
Is there anything else? You gave us a bit of that update on the hauler ordinance. So you've talked to the county attorney. So that sounds like it's in progress finally. Is that a right?
Yeah, well, the work's been in progress for some time. It just hasn't been shared with you yet, but the plans to do that are near term. I'm sorry we weren't able to at this meeting. The only thing, other thing I'll note, there's a bullet on the agenda about it. This spring, when the board was considering funding the Southern Convenience Center, I think there was pretty unanimous heads nodding about doing one in the northern part of the county next, and I believe sort of centered in the highest density area of the county to be convenient to the most people. So that's somewhere between the Charlottesville border and the Greene County border, just situated in a place that is the most convenient to the most people. So I mentioned this because just this earlier this week we had a deadline to submit capital project submissions, and I wanted to note that will be up for consideration for the board during this budget cycle. And I know in the past, members of the SWAAC have had input on the location of and services offered at convenience centers that were constructed or designed. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. I think some of you may think that's good news.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for that. So let's turn it over to planning and vision, and we're still looking for that chairperson, but Peggy and Navarre, do you guys have a report out for us?
Yeah, Navarre did get that quick reference guide all corrected, and it's available now. So I think that will be very helpful. And I just wanted to say that Christine and I and Navarre have been meeting with this outside group about the plastic bag tax. And I sent around to SWAAC a little while ago the finalized guidelines from the Virginia Department of Taxation. And Lance, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there is an ordinance that was already passed by the city of Roanoke. I don't know if you're interested in seeing a copy of that, just as something we might look more to what Alexandria or Arlington comes up with for their ordinance as a model. But I'm happy to send that to you if you'd like it.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be happy to share that with the folks in our finance department who are working with the executive's office on considering this.
Okay, great. And I wanted to say something about GFL. I think you all probably discussed it in the last meeting that I missed, but I've been seeing on Nextdoor, a lot of people are complaining because GFL is only willing to pick up one bin if you're paying for one bin worth of trash, that's what they're willing to pick up. And of course, time disposal and county waste, I think we're pretty flexible about. They would pick up what you put on the curb, even if it was overflowing or, multiple bags besides the bin, which is, that's kind of a pay as you throw change. But it's also driving people away to look for other haulers. And one of the new haulers is neighborhood disposal. Phil, I'm wondering if they're coming to Ivy. Do you know? Have you seen their trucks?
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button went away and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, neighborhood disposal was set up by former employees of time disposal.
Yeah, I think they're going in and out of Greene County right now. I think as their area expands, I think that might be something we see more of.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that, but I think it's good that GFL has restricted the number of plastics they're taking, since we know that really only the ones and twos have a market locally or regionally for us. And I think it's a shame they aren't picking up glass, but I certainly understand why they're not picking it up in a single stream system. And I hope that we'll be able to collect a lot of that glass that's no longer going to be going into the curbside single stream with GFL. I hope that we'll be able to get OI or these other, aggregate it and get it recycled.
Hey, Peggy, do you know if GFL took over the Shoesmith MRF?
I believe they did, but I can look into that.
All of county's operations in central Virginia.
Yeah, and the people, most of the things I read on Nextdoor, people are very, very confused about this all, because the time disposal trucks and the county waste trucks are still going around picking up. And so people think they're still dealing with county waste or time, and they're having, GFL is like coordinating all their pickups and reorganizing things. And so people's pickup days have been changed. And I see a lot of frustration and confusion out there.
Yeah, my whole neighborhood got the wrong cards for the wrong date. So everybody was in a whirl about that. I understood that they're going to operate as county waste. However, I think it's GFL, but I thought I read somewhere that they will continue to operate as county waste. I don't know, that would be good to confirm, because I think you're right. Our truck still says time disposal, when it comes by us. The reason I'm asking about the Shoesmith MRF is I think this MRF conversation is getting traction at the state level, but also I think as some big kind of investment groups focused on sort of circular materials are looking for opportunities. You see TRP just made huge MRF grants to get polypropylene recovered. And we're seeing there's a big federal infrastructure bill, and recycling infrastructure has been built into that bill as well. So I think there's a lot of conversation and interest around MRFs. And so it's sort of a unique opportunity I want to make sure that we're on top of. My understanding was the glass that went to Shoesmith was being used as daily landfill cover, and they were having to pay a tip fee for it. So from a business point of view, I don't know that probably made a lot of sense. So maybe we can end up doing something better down the road. That's great. Thank you for staying on top of the GFL thing, because I think it is a big source of confusion.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I have my hand raised. It's like, what is the role of our group when something major like this happens, where a whole bunch of people are now confused? Is there something in like a partnership with GFL that does a public service announcement? Is there some role that we should play when it's so confusing? And then we have people that are gonna either change Holler, or they're going to say, well, forget this, or maybe they're going to go to McIntyre. Like, we don't really know the implications. I know we were, Jesse, I know in our meeting, our subgroup meeting, we were talking about that this might actually increase the glass at McIntyre, since they've said that they're not taking glass, but people see that as might see that as a bad thing. Like, why don't they take glass anymore? There's just a lot of confusion. So what do we think our role is?
Well, I think that's a great question, Terry. I would say we've been wanting to have a meeting with GFL, and I think we should invite them as soon as possible, have that conversation and talk about, can we be helpful to, whether it's a PSA or get a news story out about glass and so on and so forth. I was going to ask, are they still collecting glass in Charlottesville on the curbside program? Is it just the county where they're not collecting it?
They're still collecting glass.
Yeah.
It's either that or they send something to us in the mail that says different, and we don't get mail anymore. So
Me either. So that is a very common, because the city has contracted with them and the glass is probably in their contract. In the county, it's subscription service. So, they have the flexibility not to carry it. And that is something that is incredibly confusing to residents. So I think let's make that a high priority to get them invited and have that conversation and see if we can't help with that. Any other ideas, folks, please throw them out there, because I agree with Terry.
Yeah, whatever we do, I think we want to help the whole community recycle more and recycle right. So even though we don't have control over the private haulers, any information that we can provide to the public about how to do, why GFL might not be taking glass, or why they, have people understand why GFL is not taking glass, but make sure they know that we're taking glass. And we do recycle it, and we do have markets for it.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. All right. Is that everything, Peggy, Navar? Anything else?
Yeah, I think so. Did you have anything, Navar?
Yeah, I didn't have anything else.
Yeah. Can I jump in here? Just because I just want to make sure that we do get a chance to talk about the plastic bag fee FAQs, but maybe that can happen later.
Yeah, I hope everybody saw the third document that Ann sent around, which is the FAQs that Christine and I have been working on with this other group that's sort of led by the Sierra Club, and has some university people involved with it, about how to educate the public about what the plans are, so that people don't have a negative reaction that it, comes up out of the blue, but they know what we're shooting for to implement the bag tax, and why, and how it benefits us. And the FAQ addresses a lot of the questions I think people would have, but we may have missed some things, and you guys are all experts in minimizing waste and educating the public. So if you would please take the time to read it through, and let us know anything that you think needs to be made more clear, or anything that we missed. That would be really helpful. Christine and I said that we would show it to have you all weigh in with your expertise, and that we would come back to them, let them know what kind of input we had from the SWAAC.
And the other thing is, I think that they're curious to know just what the timeline is. And I think I had talked to Lance about that just in our meeting last Friday. And, the best point for the public to weigh in about it. So if there's any insight about that we can relay to the group, that would be helpful.
And of course, this is a little tricky with the timeline because we would want to coordinate with the city because we really need to have a united front in introducing the tax. Do it at the same time.
I think the other thing is it would probably be good to reach out to Roanoke to talk to them about how their rollout has gone. So we did have some people share that there has been some good not necessarily bag tax, but they were talking about a bag ban, good implementation and bad implementation. And they were saying that DC had a very good implementation. It has a lot to do with really boots on the ground outreach, like not just an FAQ site, but actually going, postcards, selling.
Yeah, and if I can add, last night, I don't know if Peggy tuned into, there was a public meeting for the city of Alexandria about the bag fee. And it was interesting because they were rolling it out and looking for public comment. There were actually 22 people on the call, but one of the things that really, to me, came to the forefront in their research and their experience is that it's so important to reach out to the grocers and the convenience stores and the people who will be actually administering the fee. And what they really wanted was help in communicating why the tax is being implemented. So I think that there is a really important role for the county to play in terms of helping to get that message out there and working with grocers and businesses. That was sort of the main point that I think came out of that meeting.
Well, they really want like county signage saying this is a county program to tax bags because they don't want to have, the angry customers. They don't want their clients to be upset with them when they say that's 5 cents for your bag. And they want to make sure that customers know it's not them, it's not their business, it's the county that's taxing the bags.
And with that comes it's really important to help get the word out, that explanation for why that fee is being collected.
So Terry just chatted about, do we have bullets on the why? I think that's in FAQs, as I understand it. I've read them, but I thought the FAQs were quite good. Navarro, your hand is up. Is it still up?
Yeah, so I haven't looked at the latest version because I missed the last meeting and stuff, but have we talked any more about how we probably shouldn't be saying plastic bag tax and try to change some of that wording around that?
Yes, Christine proposed, what
reusable bag incentive.
Because as soon as you say tax, some people's hackles are going to go up. And
yeah, well, is that something you guys can work on and make a recommendation for?
I think that, can it be called something else? Can it be rolled out as a, reusable incentive or plastic reduction initiative or something like that?
I'm not sure if it was Virginia or if it was the DC one, or it could have even been somewhere else. It was somewhere over here on the Mid-Atlantic. Somebody did one that was, it had a more environmentally friendly name about it. It was related to like protecting rivers or something like that, which I think is something that we could pin on it, because I think a lot of the people I've talked to, especially around town, like even down in Mullen Mills, are like annoyed by all the plastic going down the Rivanna. And I feel like that's something more visceral, and it's spinning it, but I feel like it's also not disingenuous, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I heartily agree that the name, there's a lot in a name. And I think if the purpose is clear, the name helps to reflect the purpose, we'd be much better off.
I do think you have to have a little bit of caution on that, guys, because the authorizing legislation is a bag tax. I mean, they just have to step back and, you know, and I think we need to be transparent about that. But if you talk about what you're implementing and use that different language, you know, whether it's fee to incentive or, you know, I think that's fine, but I think the FAQs do have to be transparent that the authorizing legislation for this comes from the state and it's called a bag tax, you know, the revenue of which will be used for, you know, keeping our rivers and streams clean, keeping our sidewalks clean, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't say it at all. I just don't think we should use it as the shorthand.
Yeah.
Well, there
they
will be
call it
some
a
people
grant
that
fund.
are surprised or unhappy perhaps, but we can't forget that we also live in a community that's pretty aware and appreciative of the beauty
I
of our
agree.
area.
Yep, I agree. I think especially if there's a list of how the funds will be used, you know, the types of activities it'll support, I think that's going to be super helpful. All right, are we ready to move on to the operations subcommittee?
I could make one comment. It was mentioned that, you know, it's important to do this tax or incentive, whatever you may want to call it. Anyway, important to do it with the city, and I agree. And I, you know, there are things about the hauler requirement options out there that would also be really good to work with the city on. But I'll say it seems to get a little harder each passing month to work with the city on certain kinds of things. And I don't know if I mentioned last month, but Marty Silman with the Public Works Department, one of the division managers who was the lead on the study they're doing with GBB, where they're looking at all their, you know, at everything of their service deliveries and their ordinances, is left. He's no longer with them. I heard this morning that their Public Works Director, who's been there just about a year now, is leaving at the end of the month. So there's really not a lot of folks left for us to coordinate with right now. And of course, the city manager's office has two still quite new deputies on board who are drinking from the fire hose, I'm sure. So, you know, it is a challenge, and you know, I think you can expect it to probably result in some, you know, isolated decisions or, you know, deferral of some decisions before conversations can happen. And that's just a challenge that, you know, at least at the staff level, we have to deal with.
Good to know, Lance. Thank you. All right. Jesse, let's turn it over to you.
Thanks. So we had a good meeting between myself, Monty, Terry, and Liz out behind the county office building last month. I guess it was last month. We talked about a number of things, some of which have already been presented. We went through sort of the glass challenges, glass options, et cetera, et cetera. We continue to be concerned that if the price drops below zero, we'll have a problem. But that can't stop us from doing the necessary outreach to Nelson County and others to try to make this thing happen. We had a brief update from Monty about school composting. Monty, you still there?
He was having to transition to his car at 4:45, I think.
It is still moving forward in a limited capacity, the details of which we should get from Monty. But they are still planning on and implementing school compost. I'd say planning became implementing when school opened. We also talked about Executive Order 77, especially from the university's perspective. We are learning things as we transition away from plastics. Some things have been easy to do. Some things have been challenges with the DEQ. Because they have to concur with our solid waste plan. Not sort of the whole thing. as I'm thinking through it. I mean, not the whole thing, but most of it.
Mhm.
We also had a solid waste planning unit update that was emailed in from Sharice. Has she gone as
She
well?
is, yeah, she had to.
All right. So I've been working with Sharice on some of the numbers behind the solid waste plan and the tables and the graphics and making sure that thing comes out right. There is a deadline of like October early to get it finished. So that's a priority of both hers and myself and Phil's to review and send back to her.
Okay. Um,
We had our discussion. Sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, I was just gonna say, anything else? It sounds like there is.
Yeah, we just talked, like Terry said, a little bit about this GFL thing and how they're not taking glass in the surrounding areas from their contract customers. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't see it as a bad thing. I'd rather the people have the opportunity and the transparency to do something with it as opposed to truck it all the way to Shoesmith, process it, and have it come out as daily cover.
Yeah.
I will say we decided, like it's up to us, that the machinery will still stay in place, right? They'll continue to take glass from communities where they're contractually obligated or from people who continue to throw it in despite their best efforts.
Mhm.
So it doesn't seem like it'll break their process, but hopefully it'll increase the numbers at Ivy and at McIntyre.
Mhm.
And so with that said, I'm open to dates for next meeting. Friday, September 23rd. I hope that sounds right. Would be good for, or no, Friday, September 24th would be good for me if we do it virtually or in person for that matter. So with that said, what is the current thinking on that? Do we have to meet at the county office building in person at a picnic table in order to conduct a legal meeting?
Oh, Liz, yeah, it looks like he's not available on the 24th.
All right, well, I'm happy to do 23rd too. My question still stands though. Are we doing it at the county office building at the picnic table, which is fine. Just want to confirm before starting to send out invites.
So Terry said the 23rd is good. Monty,
Okay.
no. Monty, you're not on audio, are you? No, he's out. Okay. So it sounds like the 23rd is the most likely so far.
Yeah, so if we can either do the 23rd around lunch, the 23rd around 4, I'd be happy to arrange that at the county office building picnic tables.
Okay. That's what we know so far. It's good for Phil too. Okay. Great. You know, just listening to what you said, Jesse, doesn't it seem like maybe we should immediately get something out, like try to get the news to cover the fact that GFL isn't getting glass and have us, like, have you and your group do the news story that say, hey, we're starting a glass collection program. You know, you can still, you know, to Terry's point, let's get the message out. You can still recycle your glass, bring it to Ivy Muck, bring it to McIntyre. Seems like that's we should do like immediately.
Certainly open to it. I'll ask Terry what she thinks, since that's far more her specialty than mine. But I'm never met a camera I didn't like.
That's good news. Yeah, so Jesse, if you want to start one of us just start a document and we can start formulating a release, maybe not a full press release, but like a media alert. And then just some bullet points. I mean, if you give me some bullet points, I can definitely compose that. Does SWAAC like our boilerplate language? Where would I find that, Anne? Like, I'm assuming it's on the website, but I just need
Who we are?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think the website.
Okay.
I have a little flyer I made about us. I can look at the language on that.
Or just shoot me the flyer. Just shoot me the flyer. At least I have that little, and then we can just go from there and just start a Google Doc, and we can. Our committee can. And Christine, Christine or Peggy, we might even share it with you to add. So.
Mhm. So as Monty mentioned, our next steps are to meet with Nelson County on the 15th, and then the scheduled meeting that we just set on the 23rd, which I think lunch was working best for everybody.
Great. That's awesome, guys.
Before we move on from this, I feel like I should say that I think it's really on the, mentioning GFL specifically, and any kind of thing with, that comes from the SWAAC or or in the name of the county is going to be very sensitive. I mean, I think it's appropriate potentially for the Ravenna Solid Waste Authority, without naming any names of other, of specific haulers, to promote their services, and for all of us as individuals to amplify it. But I would say, talking about the deficiencies of private entities and promoting others is not something that the governments do as a practice, unless they're in violation of an ordinance.
I mean, Lance, is it a problem if we say, do you still want to recycle your glass, where we can just avoid the mention of hauler at all and say, you may not be able to recycle your glass curbside anymore, but please know you can still recycle in Albemarle County, at X and Y. I mean, is that problematic?
I mean, I think if, like, the blog you're talking about, makes the point that virtually everything that we're aware of in terms of glass isn't recycled anyway, and that you're encouraging that it be taken to to a convenience center that we know does. That's absolutely appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I mean, if we wanted to do this, is there somebody that needs to be involved in this conversation from the county to make sure that whatever is proposed doesn't step over a line?
I think so.
Who would that be?
Serena Gruya.
Okay, cool.
Communications office is generally happy to field the conversation, and if she needs to escalate it for other opinions, she knows how to do that.
Okay, we will reach out.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Let's send over to Christine for outreach.
Yeah,
and education.
thanks. I actually, before we leave this conversation, I guess this is for Phil with the RSWA, like, would this be a place for them, as Lance was saying, to just really broadcast and amplify the message, to remind people that we do have these two facilities where you can take your glass? I don't know.
I mean, we could certainly pump up some advertising. I mean, normally we've done that sort of when there was something, I don't know. I'm trying to think what would be yeah, we can do it. I would have to think about I always think of, there's usually a reason why we're doing something, something that's prompting it, but.
Well, there is sort of this reason, even though maybe we're not calling out the haulers, but I think a lot of people are now coming to the realization, because, I'm a county waste subscriber and I got the notice and glass is not on the list. And so there is this kind of point where letting people know, if you want your glass to be actually recycled into another glass container, bring it to McIntyre.
Well, there's no reason we can't advertise our services. I mean, we're trying to do that other ways. So yeah, we could do something. How would we want to do that? I can try and reach out to press. That's always sort of depends on what's going on as to how interested they are in a news bite.
Could we do this in partnership with GFL?
What's
Could
that?
they stand there? Could we do this in partnership with GFL? I mean, could we propose they stand there and say, we're not taking glass anymore? And then we stand there and say, but we are.
I think that would be ideal. I just don't know about how quick it will happen.
Well, I mean, is that the icebreaker that we need to have this conversation with them about coming to the next meeting and potentially being involved, et cetera?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean,
If
they're a
somebody-
customer.
Yeah. And Christine, is that in your, I'm not trying to assign this to you, but because of you're doing this blog update, it seems like you would be the logical person.
So, yeah, I can try. I mean, I do have the one contact. And so I could try to follow through with him and see where I go with that. And invite him
GFL.
to our next meeting and, make a proposal that we have this, we realize that you're not taking glass. We do take it. And can we partner up and see if there's a way that we can convey this information to the public?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
that
a great
sounds ideal to me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I will work on that.
Thank you, Christine. Terry, that was very slick. I don't mean to give this to you, but
Yeah.
But we don't want to call them twice. Like the other thing is like just efficiency's sake. And then, Phil, I think that we, rather than having 2 alerts and 2 events that media probably, maybe they're not even going to come to one, we should just work together. And this will be kind of plan A to get all of us, but like plan B would be, it's more informational. It's more like, there's been changes to services. And so like SWAAC and RSWA are informing the public or whatever. We'll figure it out.
And I think, I think the time to do it is right now, while people are in flux and things are changing. It's on their mind, like, what is all this, blah, blah, blah. My pickup's on Thursday now instead of Friday. This is the right time where they are receptive to that new message. So rather than waiting a long time when they're like, yeah, I can't do it anymore, not recycling it, then it's going to be really hard to activate people. So I think awesome. If you guys could do this.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Next week.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just, one thing as a consumer of recycling services, I sometimes feel like it would be great to have to be more educated. Like I don't even use curbside recycling, because I don't know what they're doing with it. And I don't know, and I feel like, so there may be this event where people are informed about changes, but it'd be great for the public to even know what questions to ask for.
Can you guys hear her? No. Hey, Sage, I think you broke up a little bit.
Can't hear at all.
Stop. Let's see. I was thinking that it might be helpful to have it's somewhere where consumers of recycling services can find out about questions to ask, because I think people just assume that anything they put in the recycling bin is going to be recycled. And, that's not true, but we don't know what is. And that would be, that isn't for this immediate, what you're talking about now, but something maybe to look forward to. And I was mentioning that on the county website, they list the names of different recycling companies, and they say can't talk about their services. You should call them to ask about what's covered. But maybe having like a list of specific questions that people could ask providers to kind of educate people about what options are available and what questions to ask.
I think that's great. Thank you. And that's, we certainly have given some thought about that. I think for things for people to know, we do walk a little bit of this political line of making sure that we don't advocate for anybody in particular. So, but just data information is what we're supposed to do. So, thank
Yeah,
you.
and that might be a way of getting around the naming is just, different providers, are vary in the kinds of services they provide. And these are some questions you might ask your provider, something like that. So you don't have to call out, a particular provider.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right, Christine.
All right. I just want to say that our group did not meet because I was under the impression that we could not meet. So, but perhaps I thought that we could not do any in-person meetings, but I'm glad that the ops committee was able to meet. But at any rate, Betsy has been amazing about, she is always there every weekend at McIntyre Recycling Center. It was very hot for me. And so I've been back there a couple times. It sounds like from Phil, we've gotten a complaint, which is just really tough because, it's a tricky thing to talk to people. We've got to be really careful about how we talk to them. But I would say in general, I get a lot of positive feedback. So I'm sorry to hear that we got a complaint. And those complaints seem to be really loud. But I think in general, I often get people saying that they're thankful that we're there to help provide some guidance. So, and I think that Betsy has recruited a few more people as well. So, which is great. So really shout out to Betsy and all of her great work.
Absolutely. And I think it's awesome what you're doing. And, as the saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. So it is a tricky thing on, providing, doing this for the public. So
Yeah. And, it is true that I think that people do get irritated because they've been recycling for a long time. And when things change, it's just hard. It's a hard thing. They're trying hard to do what they think is right. And it's confusing. And, sometimes it's just hard to hear, you got to do this a little bit differently. So it can be really tricky. And it's just a good reminder. We just have to really treat people with kid gloves and, be as encouraging as possible when we interact with them.
Absolutely.
And so as the weather improves, hoping to recruit more ambassadors. And there are these it looks like they're using Keep Albemarle beautiful cleanup events, and there are 4 of them, and one is right around the corner. So I looked at I think I had gotten a notice about one of the community pop-ups, and there it was sort of embedded. I don't know if the county has sent, I haven't gotten any direct emails about these events in particular. I don't know if anybody else has. But also there is that little creek that is right next to the McIntyre Recycling. And boy, it would be a great candidate for a cleanup event there, because if you ever look over the fence, it is just, I think the plastic bags get in there, and when the wind blows, there is a lot of trash in there. And I think it comes from the recycling center. But that might be an interesting thing to do to get in there. Even if we wanted as a committee to get outside, we could have an outside meeting and pick up trash.
No, that's actually a great idea. I've thought about that too. I'm not even certain how to get down there. It's pretty steep. Terry likes that idea too. And somebody said it's called Shanks Branch. So now we have a name for it.
Yeah.
So, I got these dates from the pop-up calendar as well. I know there was more detail behind these that EJ was going to cover. Lance, I don't know. I know she told us last time each one of these has a different theme. And I don't know what theme goes with what date. So Lance, I don't know if you know.
I don't, but I can find out and circulate.
Okay.
Yeah, there must be more to come on that because, they're in a different part of the county, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Christine, do you want to follow up? It sounds like you can do a face-to-face meeting if your committee members are comfortable with that. If you want to do that, or you want to just follow up with.
And does that need to happen at the county office building on the picnic tables? It's interesting because I'm just getting this other message that you can absolutely not have a face-to-face meeting. So, but I'm fine to go ahead if that is.
What was communicated to me by Liz, supposedly via Greg, was that the only way we could have a meeting was to do it at the county office building, at the picnic tables, because the building was closed. The meeting has to be advertised, agenda has to be advertised in advance, and previously EJ had handled all of that.
Got it.
Thank you, Jesse. And so with that information, I can work on having a meeting. So I will circulate and see when people are available.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to just a bit of new business. I'm going to start with the last bullet. So I would like to thank Peggy and Christine who have offered to share the chair position. I don't think we need to have a vote since nobody wanted to be nominated and they have volunteered. So I'd just like to say, I think, there will be a transition to the chair to a kind of a co-chair position with Peggy and Christine, and they're going to trade off on chairing and being secretary. So I think I would like to heartily thank them for volunteering to do that on our behalf. And I can put my little clapping hands up on my my emoji. Somebody says that an issue with the charter. I don't know, is it? I need a rules person to tell me that. Since nobody wanted to nominate, can we say that, and Donna, maybe you can help us with this. Is this something we have to vote?
I think there should be a vote. I don't know what the charter says, but one thing that perhaps might be a workaround would be for one of them to be chair, and they could then simply designate at different meetings, much like the chair and the vice chair at the Board of Supervisors. If Ned's not there, who is the current chair, then I chair the meetings. But I don't know the answer. That's something that would probably have to go to the county attorney's office.
So I have to say, in the charter, it doesn't say anything. It just lists the types of positions. It doesn't tell you how you do them. There's no guidance on that people have to be elected or appointed or anything like that. So it doesn't say you have to be limited to an individual chair. I don't even think those positions are actually outlined. I can go look at it again, but I don't think so. So just for formality, to get it on the record, let's just call it co-chairs. And can I have somebody nominate Christine and Peggy for co-chairs? I will nominate them. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Navarre.
Okay, great. Is there anybody opposed to having co-chairs? Okay, can I ask for the committee members to vote for Peggy and Christine as co-chairs? And I think it might be easiest to just do it with your things rather than trying to do an I. Can people raise their hands on their? Okay. And with that, I think we have approved you all as co-chairs. Thank you. All right. So we have, you've heard Sage has weighed in today. She's sitting in to figure out if she wants to apply for a SWAAC membership. So Sage, I hope you've gotten a little bit of a flavor of the types of things we talk about. And we have these, actually, I need to change this on the agenda. We're not subcommittees, we're actually working groups. So that will be a change we make moving forward. Had some problems with the application process, but I've got her connected now, so we'll wait to hear from her. We did make a commitment as committee members last week or last month for all of us to find, reach out and try to find somebody who might be interested. We do have 12 positions, and so we are understaffed right now. And it seems like the work of this committee is getting more action oriented and bigger. So I think we would really benefit from a bigger committee if possible. It would also give us some redundancy when those of us are busy and it's not a good time. So I don't have any more unless you all, I would be happy to just share some slides that were presented at the PWPAC meeting. Just quickly to show you what's in it, to figure out if you're interested in it, if there's anybody who would like to see that. This was the background information given on recycling in Virginia. And so there's this kind of nice piece around how collection works in these different communities and then what plastics are collected. And I can just send it around, or I can show it to some of you now if you're interested. I don't hear any.
Oh, I would be interested.
Sure. Okay. I will just quickly throw that up. Let me. Okay, so this was the agenda. It was just looking for how recycling works and who pays for it, what plastics we recycle, the key trends that are influencing plastics recycling in Virginia, and basically how Virginians recycle and what plastics they recycle. And then rural areas are definitely losing recycling across the state. So this was just some context of, what a really robust and sustainable recycling system needs. It needs to have that infrastructure bit and then outreach, supporting policies, and then some sort of financing mechanism. So that was just sort of context. Hopefully unstable. This gave people a little bit of orientation on the types of plastics, a bit of a national overview just to show that over the last 2 decades, plastics has become one of the fastest growing streams in terms of waste generation, but it has not shown an equivalent growth rate in terms of recovery or recycling rate. And so nationally, this was effective of 2017, then the plastic recycling rate was only 8.4%, which is actually lower than the global average. Did a quick review of the individual recycling rates within kind of the container and packaging category. And what you can see is that even though we recycle PET bottles, it's still a really pathetically low rate compared to overall generation. PET non-rigids, those are thermoforms. So think of your berry type of clamshells. We recycle those at a much, much lower rate. HDPE bottles and the non-bottle rigids. So many times these two are combined, but this is really looking at milk jugs, shampoo bottles. And then these are things that don't have a narrow neck. And trying to think of something, it could be like a Nestle coffee can or something like that. The one that's always startling to people is that when you look at PE films, you'll see that the generation rate is substantially higher than either PET or HDPE. And you can see we have a very low recycling rate, and that recycling rate is driven almost completely by commercial recycling. There's very little residential material. Propylene, rigids, and films are also very low, and polystyrene is essentially very de minimis. So totally within packaging, we recover plastics at about an 18% rate, which is nothing to brag about. We did a little quick review on how pricing has been incredibly volatile and how it has really flipped since National Sword. And you know, what you can see is this shows of a ton of recyclables that come into a MRF, how much they get paid by commodity. And you can see pre-National Sword, paper represented 50 to 60% of the revenue of a MRF. Since National Sword, that value of plastics, of some select plastics, has also come up. But we've really had economic turmoil. Trends you guys are all aware of, but this is like, do you have automatic curbside recycling? Nationally, only 53% of the population is automatic. 21% has access to drop-off services, so that would be like what we have. Then you have a large portion of the population that has subscription-based services. Out of that percentage of the population that has access, the uptake of subscription is assumed to be only around 6%. And then you have a certain amount of our population that has zero access. So the type of access you have really, really influences the rate of recycling. So these are the communities and counties that were polled for this presentation. And this is what I wanted to show you. Is we looked at the top 10 largest cities, ranked by population, not number of households. Automatic curbside for single stream collection was sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly. They all took PET and HDPE, but you can see that the language that they used varies radically. There's no consistent language. Sometimes it's bottles. If you were tied, every other community accepted caps. Some of the languages was really interesting. It says only bottles from kitchen, laundry, bath, and then bottles, jugs, and containers. That was really specific. You can see that some take 3 through 7s, and then other ones don't. None of them take bags, and none of them take EPS. So these are really big cities. You get down into smaller cities, and I had not heard of this, but Harrisonburg dropped their program in 2019. Previously, they had been taking, more things. So they have one drop off, and it is taking PET. We have Charlottesville in here, Blacksburg. And what you can see is, with the exception of Harrisonburg that used to take films, nobody's taking bags, nobody's taking EPS. That was pretty universal. There was still a surprising number of that still had 3 through 7s. And it really made me wonder who the haulers were and what was happening to that material, because generally this 3 through 7 gets to be pretty complicated. And then these were counties, again, ranked by population. And this is where you see the complexity really comes up at the county level of depending on where the type of community you lived in. Multifamily plays a big role there. But this, Lance, is where I thought you might find some things that are interesting, is the number of drop-off or convenience centers and the role that they that they play. So there are some counties, you know, quite a bit smaller than we are, have either a lot of convenience centers or a lot more drop-off centers. And sometimes, you know, it's clearly obviously a mix of both. There's basically no 3 through 7, no backs, and no EPS collection. And there's PE bottles. And then, you know, when you get into some smaller counties, there's just really not much going on. So I'm happy to share this with you. Thought you might be interested in the MRF map. These are the MRFs in the state by their throughput. What else was there? This showed the relationship of Virginia to PET end markets, to HDPE end markets, and to polypropylene and 3 through 7 end markets. What was this one? And PE film end markets. So I'm happy to send this along for you all to take a peek at, because I thought you all might have some interest.
I would love to get a copy of that.
Sure. So with that,
Good stuff.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just said good stuff.
With that, guys, thank you. I appreciate it. And I hereby retire my chairmanship.
Well, thank you, Anne. Thank you for your great leadership and all you've done to move us forward.
Well, you are most welcome, and I look forward to continuing to participate, but not having to be in charge of the agenda. All right, guys, everybody stay safe and
Yes.
see you next month.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.